Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cutting Edge Curriculum April webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we will discuss both the animal biology and plant biology libraries. Today, we'll show you an overview of how these libraries are organized. We will take you through 2 sample lessons, which follow the 5E inquiry-based model. You will see examples of hands-on activities and labs, a unit plan, our signature e-unit, materials list, and quiz questions. This webinar is being recorded. We will be monitoring the chat, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in there. We will start here with a few short introductions. My name is Callie Shorefighty, and I am the Marketing Manager for Cutting Edge Curriculum. Mindy?
I am Mindy Nichols. I am Customer Service and the Business Manager. I'll process your orders and answer any website questions that you have.
And I'm Lindy Coker. Nice to have you guys with us today. And I'm going to send it over to Callie so we can get started. We like to keep these webinars short and sweet and not take up too much of your time for the day. So sit back and enjoy.
Yes. So to begin here, I am going to navigate to the MyCart website and pull up this list here. This is a complete list of every available ag library and lesson that we have available to you. So since today we are covering animal and plant biology, if I were to scroll down here and click on this plant biology library, it would expand this list and show you every single lesson that's included. You will see that it is broken up into units and problem areas and then lessons. So in the plant biology library specifically, we have 4 units: plant anatomy and physiology, plant reproduction, crop management, and agroecology. Inside these 4 units, it totals up to about 28 lessons. And I know there's only 28 lessons listed here, so it might not look like a lot. However, these lessons are quite robust and very thorough, and they are still meant to last you almost an entire school year, just like all of our other libraries are. Inside some of these lessons is where you might find lab activities, or just activities in general that could take up to a week, if not longer, to complete in the classroom. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Lindy, and then she will take you through some of our sample lessons that we have pulled for you here from both the animal biology library and the plant biology library. So, Lindy?
Thank you, Callie. The first one that we're going to look at is a general document that just gives you an overview of animal biology and plant biology. When these 2 particular libraries were developed, they were developed actually using next generation science standards as the basis of all of the content that was put together. And so these are all aligned, both of these libraries. Every lesson that you'll find in here is aligned to next generation science standards. This document is found in each of the lessons. So if you ever need to kind of refer back to it, or even if you need some additional information to share with your administration, this also gives you an in-depth of how the libraries were designed, as well as with the biological concepts and the diverse areas of agriculture and related to the linkage to science, as well as some of the lab research that is put together. These lessons are also put together using the 5E format. And so we will kind of dive in a little bit on each of those E's, and hopefully you're aware of what those are. So that engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate as we work through those. And one of the other pieces on this particular document, it also kind of dives in and gives you a little bit more of the biology formal lab report guidelines that were also part of the explore portion of the lesson. And so those are critical in how these 2 particular libraries were designed. The next document that I'm going to share with you is both of these libraries, animal and plant biology, have these unit overview documents. These unit overview documents will really kind of give you like this, this picture of how this unit should be structured. What are those essential types, not of just the questions, but also the ideas, the lesson titles of everything that you're going to be covering within that particular unit. As Callie had mentioned, the plant as well as the animal, I believe that they're both broken up into 4 main units. And so you can see as you scroll through this document, it does give you kind of the basis of your learning targets, what you're going to be covering, and then getting into the next generation science standards, those performance expectations, and then as well as the updated AF&R standards. As well as on the plant side, there is the one that for the plant that we'll kind of cover. We're going to give you kind of a snapshot into Unit A on the animal biology and Unit C on the plant biology. The next document that Callie will share with you, part of this library and the robust piece of it is that there is so much activities, lab activities tucked into these libraries, is that we do have material lists for these two particular libraries. And so these are just put together. They are found in the My Community section. So if you're familiar with the MyCart system, you can dive into the My Community piece, and it gives you all of these extra materials to support these lessons. So it goes through each of the lessons and gives you just a list of what you'll need as you execute these particular lessons. Now let's get into the fun part. The fun part, the first one we're going to cover is the lesson A11 cellular biology. We typically try to structure all of our newer materials using the 5E format in this sort of a structure. So you'll see instructional time, you should plan for at least 5 days. Laboratory time, you should have at least 2. Your next generation science standard performance expectation is there. And then if you have any Common Core or if you still utilize that, it is listed for you. Now, the interesting thing is on the AF&R, we all are pretty familiar that these were updated about 1.5 years ago. What we've done internally is on our lesson pages, on our 5E libraries, you'll see that these have been updated. And so these are the updated AF&R standards as they are listed for you. Every lesson is going to have an essential question, and then following those, the student learning objectives. Now we get into the nuts and bolts of the 5E. The very first one is engaging. This particular activity is microscope slide evaluation form. And so your students are going to work through a T-chart and to move through those types of activities. The next one is exploring. This one is osmosis and diffusion in an egg. This activity has quite a bit of teacher notes that relates to it. But typically before we get into those activities, we do like to assign our signature E-unit. This is where the student, you can assign this document for them, but this is one of our signature pieces. It is written for the student. So even if you're looking for something that is similar to a textbook, we prepare these so that it is grade appropriate for the students, and they can read through them and learn a little bit more from a context standpoint. You have an opening paragraph, the overall objective, your list of key terms, and then as the student dives into it, again, whether it's a digital piece that you assign it to them, or even if you print these off, the students would be able to have black and white information to link back to what you've learned in class, whether it's through the activities or as well as if you are moving through a PowerPoint or a lecture style, which every lesson we also provide is a PowerPoint. At the end of every E-unit, you'll find a summary. You'll also find a section called Checking Your Knowledge. Typically, Checking Your Knowledge has 3 parts. Usually it's matching, completion, And then sometimes it's a multiple choice or it's a true false. And all of those answers can be found within the e-unit. Now we'll go back to the lesson and take a look at the particular activity on the exploring activity. That one, it's got a really great activity of utilizing corn syrup as well as fresh egg and white vinegar. So you'll work through that activity. We're not going to do that here virtually, but you'll work through those pieces. It gives you day by day of what you would need to conduct, as well as your data table. If we go back up into the lesson itself, Callie is there. We will then go into the next part, which is the explaining. This is the third E in the 5E lesson model. The third E is explaining. This is where you're going to get into your content and refer back to that E unit, explaining of your actual definitions of your vocabulary. And as we know, that vocabulary is such a very important piece of your lesson. You can also have your students do some sort of a report based off on their activity that they performed in the exploring. And then you can also dive into this activity, which is cellular city analogy, which I think it's just a very simple but fun piece of where they can relate their local city and how it is put together to a cell. And then the next E is elaborating, and typically always our elaborating activities are linking to some sort of a career profile, but something that allows for the students to think of something real world. And then final E is evaluating. And of course, that is all of your answer keys that you'll find to the checking your knowledge, and as well as your essay questions at the end of the lesson. And so Callie can also scroll through some of our student pages within this particular lesson. So your engaging activity, your exploring activity. And as she moves through those, these are designed just for the student. Of course, you can utilize them as you see fit as a teacher, but it allows for you to have those activities. The other item, and I don't know if Callie has it up or not, but we also have additional assessment questions. Oh, she does. For each of the lessons. So once you log into a MyCart account and you look at your lessons, you have additional questions that are already ready for you to utilize for every lesson. So here is the listing of the multiple choice questions that are associated with this particular lesson on cellular biology. The next lesson that we wanted to share with you today is on the topic of plant pathology. And so this is found in Unit C of plant biology. You'll see that this instructional time is 5 days, laboratory time is 2, just the exact same type of a format that we saw in animal. And we get into the essential question. And the essential question is, how does disease impact plant health? Our student learning objectives. And then we get into our particular activities. So the engaging activity, we do have a couple of interest approach. You do have a little bit of a task as a teacher is to either collect specimens of disease damaged plants. And my goodness, some of you, I don't know if you have any greenhouses, but I remember when I was teaching, sometimes I would just go out to the greenhouse and find some plants that maybe were having some damage. Or I would just maybe create some or find something out in the yard, but it depends on where you can find those at, or you can also just use pictures. And then you would assign the disease activity to the students and give them a set amount of time. Utilize that as kind of like your platform of being able to introduce to the students the topic of the lesson that you're going to cover for the next couple of days. And then the next one is under exploring. The exploring activity is on brown rot. This is whether you have fruit. Typically you can go to a grocery store and you can actually find some of this that's been in the store for a little bit. It's been damaged, or you can also create it, just have to plan ahead. These would also be mentioned within the materials list ahead of time. And then you work through that particular lab activity. You actually have quite a few questions to cover with the students on this brown rot activity, as well as a scoring rubric to help you navigate this particular piece. Again, the third one is explaining. That is going to go through your entire content portion. You do have an activity in here on pathogen comparisons. And then the last one under elaborating is plant disease research. And this allows for the students to do some a little bit more deeper digging into those specific plant diseases that were either covered earlier or that came up in discussion. And then, of course, finally, you always have your evaluating piece. But if we get into the actual student content documents, the very first one is very simple because it should be more of an engaging activity to allow for the students to do together with you or in the classroom. The brown rot, you'll see that it does have a little bit more of some background information for the students to work through. The procedure is very detailed for you with for 12 steps for the students to be able to follow. And then, of course, like we mentioned already, you have some really great questions and scenarios to work through. And then you have an activity on the pathogen comparison, which you have a sheet already available for the students. And then you have some parameters and guidelines for the students on that plant disease research. The last couple of things that I know that I'll mention to all of you is if you're looking for an elevated, Callie used the word earlier, robust animal biology or plant biology, or something that's going to be more challenging for your upper level students, or even if you're being challenged to teach a science-based agriculture course, these two particular libraries were designed to support those. If you have any particular questions about these libraries, we love to take them, or to even give you a free trial to be able to see maybe a little bit more of what is available. But we like to try to keep our webinars around 20 minutes because we know you're super busy during the day. So I'm going to send it back over to Callie as we finish up.
Yes, thank you, Lindy. And as far as questions go, you can still feel free to put them in the chat. But if you are watching the recording of this, you can also always go to the MyCart website. I had it pulled up earlier, and that's where I was viewing this list of lessons here. There is a gold questions tab that is available at all times. This is where you can contact us. We also have our information here at the bottom if you want to contact us on Facebook or follow us along on Facebook or Instagram. We also have several tutorial videos posted on YouTube. So if at any time, especially this coming summer, we are launching a brand new website. So that will be very exciting. So the content will look exactly the same. But as far as accessing the materials and adding your students to this system and making assignments and everything like that is just extremely streamlined and much, much easier to navigate and much nicer for the teacher to find what they're looking for. So if you do have any questions, you can always contact us this way, as well as the Cutting Edge Curriculum website. This is a separate entity, kind of houses the MyCart website. So if you do, or if you're ever looking for any other additional information, Cutting Edge Curriculum also provides scholarships to college juniors who are pursuing a degree inside career and technical education. We also provide grants for pre-service teachers so that they can have access to our materials during their student teaching semester. We do have several partners as well, so you can also view that information on our website here. But as Mindy put in the chat for you all, we do have the ability to request a free trial. So if you are ever interested in looking at our materials, you can go to our website and request a free trial there. That is all I have, unless you ladies have something to add. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and thank you again very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.